actual characters. The entire story isn't exactly about the characters, it's about the world. And the characters just play along in the world. So eventually, even like the main character could completely be replaced by someone else that becomes the new main character. There's no underlying real main character here.
Which is good.
Yeah, I mean there might be a character like take Malon for example that might show up throughout the entire story, but there'll definitely be points where he's suddenly not in the spotlight anymore, and it's someone else's turn.
Yeah, I
or
feel
even
that.
some of these characters might end up actually turning against each other. So, and all that kind of cool shit. So you actually two characters that work together in the beginning, and you know the reader would know that these are pretty good people, and throughout the story, you know, they drift apart and suddenly they come into contact again on opposing sides, and it's a pretty heartbreaking moment if those two characters actually end up fighting, because you know the reader doesn't know who to root for, because you know you like both of them.
Yeah, well, they probably like Duncan more and such.
Well, he's not in there, so.
No, but like in comparison to Carter or Drew.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I'm going to try to avoid as much as possible. At least, obviously, the actual main character of the one set story is always going to get the spotlight in certain situations, but it's not like the other characters are not going to be in any kind of spotlight whatsoever. So even Carter or Drew, no, not Drew in the first story anyway, but definitely Carter in the first story, he is gonna get a significant role.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are going to be people always going to have their favorites. That's completely fine.
Yeah, no, that is always fine.
But I'm going to at least try to give every character a good shake at a stick here. Now, obviously, some characters are doomed to die. I've already confirmed that Dane here, he is not long for this role. I think he dies in around chapter 9 by the Undead Horde.
Damn.
And after which, you know, he will be replaced by probably a new character. And I'm thinking of getting Duncan involved. So we actually have all 4 of our characters involved in the same story.
Nice. I want that.
Because right now you've got Carter and Drew running at the same time, but I only have Malon at the time.
Yes.
And I feel that Duncan definitely needs to show up, and he's going to get his own character arc and whatsoever. Now, in short, I'm going to just go over some of these characters because we do need to kind of determine for Carter, you know, what he's going to be doing, and with what character he's going to, you know, end up being friends with, or definitely not friends with, or whatever. Now, obviously, by the time we get to the end of this first story, it might be completely different, but we do need to have some slight ideas of what might happen. So we could, for example, say that he's going to be amazingly good friends with the princess over here, and by the end of the story, they're not even near to each other. So that choice doesn't matter. But we do need to kind of keep in mind what kind of character he is and which other characters are a potential match and which definitely aren't. So if I do get them in the same scene at one point throughout the story, I already know slightly how Carter's going to react to them. So I don't need to keep asking you the entire time, oh, do you think, you know, Carter would do this or that? That I can pretty much already kind of guess by myself what he'd do. Roughly, obviously.
Yeah.
But anyway, for all these characters, well, you kind of know Malon's character arc at the moment. He is still, you know, he is still the slave trying to figure out his place in the world, and whether or not the ends justify the means, because he's, you know, he wants to do everything he possibly can to basically escape slavery, but he's slowly realizing that by doing this, he's basically putting other people through the same hardships that he'd been forced to go through, and that's not exactly, you know, something he stands for. But at the moment, he's not like he can go anywhere. By the time that, you know, Carter meets him, Malon's pretty much a free man, but he really isn't, because, you know, after everything he's done to earn his freedom by the Camerans, everyone else in that fucking country hates his ass. It's not like he can just defect and go anywhere. They'll probably still kill him. And it's not like he can go back to the southern continent, because he'll be flagged a deserter and still be killed. So he's free, but he's not really free. And that kind of fucks with his mind, because he knows there's nowhere he can turn. And he's starting to try to doubt or question if, you know, if it's worth it, if hurting all these people he comes across is actually worth it. Is his freedom and life more important than everyone else's? Probably not, but he can't stop himself from trying to from basically doing self-preservation, and that's fucking up with his mind quite a bit, up till the point where in the end of the story he does actually turn on his on his captors, which by the time is a kind of a funny choice to make, because it sounds like something completely obvious that you definitely turn on your captors, but for him it's kind of a tough choice, which kind of hints at, you know, the complexity of it all. It's not just a, oh, they're evil, let's band together with a group of heroes to defeat them kind of situation.
No, that's too easy.
Yeah.
People always do it and like meh.
Yeah. Well, Princess Beaumont over here, she's gonna get properly fucked, obviously. Also literally. By a lot of angry Camerons. And you know, she's gonna go from that naive, young, I want to get involved in the fighting, I want to be that cool kind of princess girl, to someone who's really fucking been through some hardship shit and knows the reality of the situation. At the end of the story, as I planned it before, she would actually take her mother's place on the throne, but that I've kind of changed that. Because you'll notice her title, the Exiled Princess, doesn't sound like someone who's in charge.
Not at all, indeed.
That sounds like someone who's been exiled.
Someone who's been like kicked out, like fuck you. Yeah. Fuck you, you're sorry.
So, but yeah, she's gonna get properly fucked. Because at the end of the the end of the story, the entire capital city is razed to the fucking ground. Because, you know, obviously the Chimerans came, the fucking Necromancer came, and obviously we've still got those Rorgin traders also in the city. Now they will have successfully taken the city after everything's said and done. Meaning that the queen's dead and the princess really has nowhere to go, because suddenly she doesn't have a city anymore. Because, you know, she can't just fight all of those guys by herself. So after that, it's basically her conquest to take back her city. So she'll go out onto the continent and try to find allies to help her fight this cause. Meanwhile, trying to support the others in hunting down this necromancer. Because she does realize, obviously, that this necromancer and this undead dragon are the real threat here. The Chimerans are dead by this point. They're gone. Don't have to worry about those anymore.
Well, that's one thing, at least.
It's not like she's going to completely give up on her family heritage and go full, let's go kill the dragon. No. She figures that she can do a lot more if she takes her city back and is in control of the entire region, and then go and fight the dragon, because then they suddenly have an entire kingdom at their back. So there are definitely characters that are going to follow, for example, Malin here, in hunting down this dragon and figuring out what the fuck's going on. And there are going to be those that are actually going to back up the princess. And maybe at one point these two parties and their ways of figuring out the dragon problem will conflict.
Probably.
Because they've got two, while they're fighting for the exact same goal, they've got a completely different mindset towards that goal, and that might cause some conflicts there. Which is going to be pretty interesting. Because it's an obvious thing that, you know, none of these two parties are evil. Although they just don't agree with the other's approach, so they think the other party is completely wasting time. Because the princess obviously believes that, you know, sending the other ones off into the fucking nowhere, hunting down this dragon, which they know they probably can't defeat if they find it, is a dumb fucking thing to do. Meanwhile, the other guys that are chasing the dragon thinks that fucking around in some politic war, basically weakening the continent to even further, is a dumb thing to do, because then when the dragon comes back, there's nothing that can stop it. So they're both kind of right, but they're also right about the other in some weird way. So that when these two parties do conflict, it's gonna be an interesting debate. Now, after the princess, we get to Miss Javier Amaro, the High Crusader, and initially, damn, I forgot to put out my background music. I usually keep like a fucking music really softly on the background, so my fucking headset registers that, oh look, there's something happening, I don't shut off. Because apparently Discord noise doesn't count as noise. So every time you say something, the headset doesn't register and it just goes into AFK mode.
Oh wow.
And it's the single most annoying thing, because I don't know how to fix it. Well, I know how to fix it by playing a fucking music clip, and I'd rather not have to do that.
True,
not
true.
like too much of a hassle, but you know, like if I forget, then you get this. But yes, so the High Crusader. I had originally planned that she does actually die at the end of the first book, and I'm still on the fence about it. I'm probably going to change it because I've recently obviously reread the first 4 chapters, and she plays quite a significant role in those 4 chapters, and she plays quite a significant role in the majority of the first 10 and basically the entire book. It's just the later few chapters where Maiden's on basically doing his own thing for a while that you don't really see her an awful lot anymore. But definitely initially she's a pretty big deal, and it's quite obvious that she really doesn't agree that much with the Chimeran lifestyle. So in the end, I think that, you know, when they come to blows with each other, when Maiden actually does turn against the Chimerans and, you know, their hordes, that by then I think the bond between those two will have been so strong that they're definitely not going to look eye to eye on this, but I don't think any one of them is going to be able to kill the other. Because of everything else they've already been through and all the conversations they've had. They're definitely not going to be friends for a good while.
But, I mean, what are friends anyway?
Yeah, but I think I will be keeping this character alive.
Humanity, everyone in humanity is a cunt.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, humans are a cunt, but I think most humans at the moment would agree that Chimerans are bigger cunts. Because they're the ones basically killing everyone right now.
Yep.
But yeah, so obviously, I haven't really figured out what her character arc is going to be in the next story, but luckily that's so far off that I don't have to worry about it yet. Because her character arc, at least initially, is trying to... Well, she doesn't really have much a character arc from beginning to end. She basically stays the same from beginning to end. It's one of the very few characters that actually does that. But that's because basically she's still in league with the Chimerans, and she doesn't really have any reason to start doubting that. Because she's way completely brainwashed by the Chimeran lifestyle. But not entirely. And that's why in the end, you know, she's kind of conflicted about this, as opposed to let's just completely kill the fuck out of Malin.
Yeah, no, Malin, we still need him alive for now.
Yeah, I mean, Malin is definitely, I'd say, the actual MVP of the entire story. I'd say if the entire story overall, all of the books that end up coming, have a main character, then Malin would probably be it, just because he plays the single most central role. Because in the end, obviously, it's going to be revealed that the undead dragon is just... The undead dragon and this necromancer, they're not just the only ones. They're part of many. There's a whole basically a massive army coming this way. And
ooh, I like dark armies.
The dragon and the necromancer, they're not even worded correctly. They're not even really a necromancer and a undead dragon. It's something else entirely. But
oh no.
They're basically the ancient enemies of the Elysian Empire, and you know it's going to be revealed that Malin's actually a descendant of the Elysian Empire, so also the only one that can physically kill a dragon, because you know it's literally in his blood. He's literally the Dragonborn in some way. So it's basically his actual conquest to kill the fuck out of every single dragon that wants to kill the entire planet. So that makes him quite a central character.
True, true.
Probably also why I put him slap bang at first. I haven't written this list in any order of complete importance, just the order in which they came to mind. But it just so happens, obviously, the most important characters came to mind first.
Well, that is kind of how it's supposed to be. Like the most important characters come first. Because then you can at least be sure, like, those are placed in. You don't forget about them at that point.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if a character's on the list, that means that they're important in some way. If they're not as important now, they're going to be. They'll definitely have their moment to shine. But yeah. We come to number 4, which is, oddly enough, still my Dragon Age Inquisitor. You can see from the picture here, which I did some editing to it to kind of have it appear to be like an art piece, just like the others, but obviously because it's a screenshot, there's no way I can ever really get it to work. But yeah, it's close enough, it'll do.
Yeah, no, it's close enough.
It'll get the job done. Now this is definitely a interesting character. Obviously, because the first time this character appears on screen, she's in a definite questionable position. Basically, she's the keeper of a band of wild mages, or wild elves, I mean. And those are already a questionable bunch. Wild elves are definitely not held in high regard on this continent. They're pretty much rebels, terrorists, and frowned upon. Now, every clan, but because every clan is different from the other, they're always going to have some slight key differences. And most clans are completely openly hostile towards every other race, because obviously it's not just humans on this continent.
True, true.
I'm gonna invent some other races that'll inhabit the same continent, and we run into those. Obviously, we already have a different race. We've got the Chimerans there, but yeah, they don't really count because they're not really native from this continent. The elves aren't either, which is funny, but yeah. But anyway, so yeah, she's a fucking wild elf, which is already something to be suspicious about. But she's also a mage, which is also something to be suspicious about. And if you combine those two, yeah, someone's getting an eye keeps onto her. But eventually, the entire clan is basically wiped the fuck out, leaving just a handful of survivors. Miss Asha here being one of them. But she's going to be special in a few other ways as well. Obviously, she's a mage, and I believe that at the moment she's just one of 2 mages in this entire list. Because no one here really... it's not really pointed out in any significant way, but the High Crusader also has magical powers. But that makes them the only 2. Because, mages are very uncommon in this world. And when they are found, they're basically contained in colleges or basically kept on the guard at all times, because magic is really fucking dangerous and pretty fucking OP in this world.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't like to fuck around with magic. Also, Dunga, do you know, like, in like the top of the museum?
You mean that big empty room?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck's going there.
Okay.
It'll probably be used for something. But
maybe the gold.
Maybe, I don't know. It'll be useful for something at one point, but I haven't figured out what yet, because I never really came far.
Well, time for me to figure out.
Yep.
Also time for me to get, well, taken away by asteroid.
Yeah. But what's also obviously hinted at pretty early on is that when Dane and Dinah first meet this character, it's hinted at that she's sick in some way, and that's connected to the undead dragon and the necromancer in some weird way. Basically, what Malin has with the Elysians, she has with their enemies, the ones that overthrew the Elysians. So both sides of that engagement have descendants that are coming back to repeat the cycle. Obviously, the necromancer and the dragon are one side effect of this, and she's another. However, no one knows that yet. Not even she knows it yet. Basically making Asha and Malin mortal enemies, literally mortal enemies.
Rip.
So that's definitely going to be fun, because I've changed her character just a bit, and I'm going to change it even further, where in the initial story she was kind of this mysterious, not really a talkative type, pretty snarky and pretty cocky personality. I'm changing that, making her basically one of those really smart, nice, quiet kind of girls. The one that you really wouldn't suspect has any evil hidden inside of her at all. And this is not even some kind of charade or facade or anything. That's just the way she is. She's not an evil person at all. Which is gonna make it even weirder when she suddenly learns about her actual heritage and what her purpose in life really should be, to basically wipe out all life. She's connected to that dragon since she becomes more powerful whenever that dragon's nearby. And eventually, I don't know when or whenever, her mind's gonna be more and more corrupted. The longer on this happens, the longer the more time she spends close to this damn thing, she's gonna basically spiral down to a mental pit of chaos and actually become that evil person. But at least initially, she's a pretty, a pretty nice, sweet girl, and everyone she meets, will agree on that, making it all the more heartbreaking later on in the story when they actually have to oppose her, remembering, what she used to be like, not really wanting to kill her, but knowing that they have to. Now, obviously, Dane, Drew's older brother. Not much to say because he's pretty much gonna RIP pretty quickly. Chapter 9, I believe, is when I'll commit to it, because at the moment, him and his sister are basically on the same character arc. And I never want to have two characters literally living the same life, unless they're literally a couple or a brother and sister duo, which in this case they are. But I will, Dane's gonna basically disappear, die, and Dinah's then going to be the main character of these two and continue on her own path or whatever. After which Dane's place is probably gonna be replaced by Duncan, who I've yet to decide when or how he's gonna get involved in the story or anything about his character. I'll get to that eventually, probably after Dane's slots open. I'll start to figure out what I want to do with Duncan.
Okay.
And obviously there isn't much to his character arc because he's not involved in the story for too long. He's in it for half of it, and at least initially he's the driving force for him and his sister, because he's the one that's taking charge of basically the situation. He brings his sister to safety, gets involved with the elves and ensures that they can stay there, and his sister really relies on him for that. And after that, because he's taken away from her, that kind of basically sets off her character arc. He's basically a tool, the tool to be used to set off her character arc. Because he's all about getting revenge for what happened in the beginning of the story and never really getting that. And her entire character arc will literally be the same thing but slightly different. She's more Dinah's going to go after basically after the Necromancer and the Dragon more so than the Chimerans. Because the next time that these two actually meet the Chimerans is during the raid on the Elven village.
Okay.
Malin and his boys roll up on the Elven village basically. Meanwhile, Asha, Zami, Dane and Dinah are on their way back after Dane decided to leave. They bring him back and they just happen to arrive pretty much at the same time the Chimerans do. And during that attack, basically the undead dragon shows up, and the Necromancer basically has something to say about all this. So he basically kicks them all kicks all their asses. Dinah will notice, just like every other character, that the Chimerans under Malin's leadership completely turn their backs on their enemies, on the elves. And they know that their sole objective is to basically slay those elves and secure the position. But when the moment that dragon shows up, Malin orders his men to focus on the fucking dragon and nothing else, knowing all too well that they can definitely lose the fight or have the elves stab them in the back. But they don't. The elves also fight side by side with the Chimerans for a while, and that leads Dinah to believe that even the Chimerans, as crazy as they are, they're definitely not the big bad evil that she's been led to believe the entire time, because the guy that's responsible for killing their dad, and they know it's because they recognize him, also just saved their lives. So that kind of jump starts this moral gray area kind of thing. And the next time that she meets Malin without her brother involved is at the time when he gives them that artifact just straight out of the blue. So she's no longer hell bent on killing every Chimeran she sees. She doesn't really believe that they're quite that evil, and that there's definitely something else that needs to focus on.
Yeah, there are more pressing matters.
Yeah. In the end, I'm probably having her become because the Rangers are definitely going to become a thing, and she's likely going to be like the actual leader of those Rangers. She's gonna spearhead her own faction and all that. And I think at least initially, some other characters will be involved or get involved later. I think Duncan might be a good candidate to be a ranger. That does sound like something he'd do.
Duncan, yeah.
And because, you know, a character that's already in that cycle is disappears, and that leaves room for another character basically to jump in. I can throw him in anywhere, it doesn't really matter, but I've only got so many things happening in the stories. It's either going to be tagging along with the Chimerans, tagging along with the princess, or tagging along with the elves. I can't come up with something else new entirely to happen outside of that.
Yeah,
otherwise the story is going to be cluttered.
Hi, is there something I can do for you?
So I think that would be a decent fit. The only thing I need to determine now is, at least for the rangers, which characters are really going to tag along with them, and how are they going to differ from after the story, the princess's goal and Maynard's goal. Are the rangers going to help the princess, you know, build up her, take back her throne? Or are they going to go with Maiden back to Old Elysia to find any clues about what's happened? Or are they going to do their own thing? That's up for debate still. But, you know, that's still... the Rangers are probably not going to officially show up anytime soon. They're probably going to be created halfway through the story. And after that, you know, the other half of the story, they're not going to do an awful lot. They're just going to do, you know, what I've already described in the story. Go and fight the the big baddie, the dragon. And meanwhile, the big baddie, the dragon, and his necromancer pal are on their way to the capital city. So that's where they're going. It's only after that where they really start doing their own thing.
Ooh, I have a little question, by the way.
Yeah.
Why is this kid here on this in the Ballad Wire? He's called Nickley.
I've never noticed that.
No, I stole him out of Tusk for like the little question like Isolda, and like he's just sitting here. I just look up and like he's sitting here. Like what the hell?
You're new around here.
I mean, it is a place where a kid would sit.
Don't get on my bad side.
If I were to choose a place to sit, that's where I'd sit.
I guess, yeah.
I used to be one of those climby kids back when I was a kid. I used to climb every single building I came across. It's pretty good at it as well.
Well done.
Like we had some big fuck off church in the fucking neighborhood, and I climbed that shit. Dangerous as all hell, but I definitely had some Assassin's Creed motivations there.
That's how you got to be an assassin.
Yeah. Alright, so anyway, obviously Carter, he's gonna get involved in the story at roughly chapter 6, I believe it was, when Maiden makes his first raid on the village. Obviously, Carter's life before that, I'm just imagining basically what we kind of always do, is he's just living a pretty simple life. He's not really involved in anything, just living in an ordinary village. He'll probably be the son of like a fucking farmer or something, and you know, be groomed to take over the family business at one point, something that he really doesn't really like the idea of, but he knows he doesn't have a choice. He's got a decent life. It's not like he's miserable there, nothing too special, but you know, he's just a common guy. He does love and appreciate his family, which makes it more important to him that they're killed and they're taken away from him, fucking him up even more. You might even give him like a small little relationship as well, that basically gets taken away from him just to fuck him up even more.
Yeah. That's always fun in stories, like if you just fuck the characters up that way.
Yeah. Well, I think the most interesting characters, you know, are the characters that are struggling with something. No one wants to see a character always straight ace everything. They always need to have some either good character arc or some struggle that they have to beat. And every single character in this list has one of those.
Yep.
Now giving Carter one of them as well, that's a pretty good choice. Now obviously, he's going to be in league with Maiden for a while. Carter will also be one of those people that notices, because he works closely with Maiden, he notices that, well, Maiden is definitely he fights for the wrong people, but he's definitely not an evil guy per definition. And Carter will definitely notice a lot of himself in Maiden, and the same goes the other way around, which is why they tolerate each other. Because you know, they know what the other's going through. They're both kind of still forced to do this in some sick way. I'm not saying that they agree with one another, or at least not saying that Carter agrees with what Maiden is doing. But Carter also recognizes that what he's blaming Malin for, just rebelling and not doing it, he's also not rebelling and not doing it either. He's also being, manipulated and beaten into a submission and basically have the fear of God put into him to basically do whatever they want him to do.
Yep.
And his entire, at least in the initial story, his entire character arc is trying to snap out of that. Now, obviously, the princess here is gonna play a big role in that because they're basically captive, taken and being held captive at the same time. Carter's already there, I believe, when they take the princess as a prisoner. And these two obviously start conspiring a way to escape. Because one, hey look, hella cute girl, that's also good. And two, hey, I might escape.
Do you feel all right?
So that's a win-win for Carter.
Before my ma
Now after this, we know that Carter is going to actually escort the princess back to the capital city to basically give the news and help in the potential defense. Because after escaping, Carter is not a particularly big fan of the Chimerans and he really wants to get back at them for everything they've put him through.
Yeah.
So giving a sword in his hand and basically having the ability to slice a fucking Chimeran in half is not something he'd say no to.
Oh, he loves that.
Even while he's not a fighter per definition, he's been turned into a fucking fighter. Even though he's definitely not the strongest or fastest guy out there, because slaves aren't really trained pretty severely. In fact, they're not trained at all. They're just told to do something, and or if they die, they die, and if they don't, then well, good job, you'll die tomorrow probably.
Probably, yeah.
But it's not like Carter is overcome with fear or is worried about losing his life. When he gets that sword, he's all too willing to step on that battlefield again, knowing that he'll probably fucking die, but he just doesn't care anymore, because he's so far gone and he doesn't really believe that he's got much to live for aside from getting revenge.
Yeah.
And in the next story, that's probably where he starts finding things to live for again and healing that empty heart of his. But that's going to determine heavily on where he goes at the end of it. Like, what does he do?
Search the mind of a madman.
No, that doesn't sound like something he'd do.
No, that is
I know.
Which quest was that again? It was like the one for
that's the one in like the Solitude.
Yeah, where you need that
palace.
Yeah, Pelagius
Yeah.
Okay, that's
where you get the Wabberjack from.
Yeah, okay, I need to go there then. Well, good to know that that's my next quest after this one.
That's a pretty cool quest. I really like that one.
I want to get all the Daedra artifacts because those are just.
Always helped that Shao Gorath was one of my favorite characters from Oblivion. So when I found him again in Skyrim, it blew my fucking mind.
I want to meet him again.
But
just his quest is
that's Carter out of the way, and at least that's literally last but not least, I'd say. There's not a character in this list that's least, because if they're on this list, it means they're of some importance. But definitely the character I've done the least with. She's involved in pretty much everything, but basically she's literally the biggest sidekick character in this entire story. She doesn't have any adventure of her own, at least not yet initially. She'll get it, but
she'll get it eventually.
Now I'm invigorating her as this. She's one of those energetic balls of joy kind of characters. There's not
Samuel Shields.
Not a fucking evil troll in the world. She's just all smiles and giggles and fun. Not even in the annoying way, but just in the sheer adorable kind of way. Because she's a head smaller than most people. Because she's an elf, so that kind of already makes her adorable. She just has this giddy, adorable personality, which is going to change throughout the story. As she deals with some of these really serious situations. So she might end up being a little bit more mature down the road. But at least initially, she's gonna get involved with, this trio up here, at least initially, because when they show up at the Elven Village, obviously Zami is gonna be there, and she just shows up one day. And they basically become pretty decent friends, all four of them, friends-ish. And after that, when the village is basically destroyed, Zami is also one of the survivors. and she tags along with Diana basically on the same mission. If any two characters could say that they're definitely going to be on the same team, it's definitely going to be these two. It is ironic that they're both put in green text to confirm that, but that was my sheer coincidence that I thought the color green fit. But yeah, when Dane commits a die, these two are going to be the next power duo, at least for the rest of the story.
Time to finish this.
And at least in the next one, I'm gonna in the follow-up story, I'll pretty much give her her own central role in something, like something that's an adventure of her own, and maybe having her get involved with some of the other characters, or maybe some new characters that get involved in that story and so on. But at least for now, yeah, there's not a lot to go on. She's definitely one of the nicer characters in this list, though. Not to say that anyone here is evil by any means, because they're not. None of them are actually, by definition, pretty evil. But they're not as amazingly soft and sweet and giddy and adorable as she is. That's pretty much her biggest character trait.
How the fuck did she? Sure.
Did you just get absolutely ruined?
Yeah, I got 2 shot after I healed outside.
Nice.
You picked a bad time to get lost.
Alright, but anyway, what I need to kind of figure out now is, what is Carter's stance on. If Carter were to meet any of these characters in a let's just say a neutral situation, just bumbling. If Carter were to basically walk down a fucking road and bumble into one of these characters, how would he react? I mean, how would he treat them?
Some good, some bad, I guess.
Because I need to kind of figure it out. Not that there might be a good chance that he's not gonna meet any of them, or he's gonna meet all of them eventually. Anything can happen, but I just need some predefined, what is Carter gonna think of it? Because right now, Carter obviously he gets involved in the story, and he's already mentally pretty fucked up.
He's probably not going to take a liking to anyone at first. He's probably going to try to avoid making contact. If he really has to, he's going to be very suspicious, very he's going to be very how do you call it? Not laid back, but he's going to hold back on information as such.
Yeah, it's going to be very distrustful.
Yeah, but he has his reasons for that. He's already mentally fucked up. He doesn't want anything to do that again to him.
Yeah, and near the end of the story, he's already escaped the Chimerans now, and he's already on the up and up again ish. He's not particularly healed by any stretch of the imagination, but he's getting there. So what do you think? Okay, so let's just go by them. If at the end of the story, if Carter were to basically stumble into Malin, how would he react?
I mean, as long as Malin hasn't done anything bad to him, from what he knows, then at the end of the story, when he's doing okay, then he's going to be okay with that character.
Yeah. Obviously,
as long as he doesn't
going to be a bit of a moral grey ground between those two, because Malin is, or kind of is, responsible for what happened initially at Carter's village.
Yeah, but does Carter know that? Does Carter know it's him?
Well, Carter probably would have seen Malin around. Obviously, Malin wasn't in charge of that entire thing, but he definitely was there.
Yeah, but does he still remember? Things like that are also important.
Well, in the beginning of Carter's arc, he's probably not going to remember when Carter's just taken captive, but he will definitely remember eventually. But by this time, obviously, like I said, he will have recognized that he's got a lot in common with Malin, and then neither of them are evil characters, but they both still. He'll recognize that Carter himself is being forced to do whatever they want him to do with no freedom, and he has to basically become a monster. And he recognizes that Malin is basically him, just very far in the future. He's what Maiden is basically what Carter will become if Carter doesn't find a way to stop this. So you can't really blame Maiden for it.
Yeah, like at that point, like if he's experienced like the exact same thing, then sure, like he doesn't take it like that much against him. He still does a little bit. Like how the fuck did you let it get that far?
Yeah. Because you know, Carter obviously he escapes pretty quickly. Meanwhile, Maiden's never really quite escaped. So you can hold that against him. But okay, so why are you being attacked?
I don't know.
Well, we're not good.
I just get in here. Don't hurt me.
Yeah, you're immediately being attacked by fucking Odgert. Why? And now everyone's attacking Odgert because she's attacking you.
I'm walking in now and...
What the fuck did we just witness?
Okay.
Well, there's some free steel armor for you there. That's weird.
I'm getting into Whiterun right now.
Yeah. Alright, so anyway, so that's Maiden covered.
I'm going to check this way. If I'm getting attacked in Whiterun itself, fuck my life. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So if Carter were to basically stumble into Princess Eliza, how would he react? Now remember that this is a character that helps him escape, so this is probably going to be one of those characters that is he is pretty good with.
Yeah, no, like if that happens, yes.
This is the princess of his nation and the one that helped him escape, so probably a fair chance that, you know, yeah, he's alright.
Plus it's a female.
Plus she's hella cute, so yeah. I mean, if Carter gets a chance to basically dick around with, you know, the fucking princess, you know, the most wanted girl in the entirety of his nation, he's not gonna object.
Also, hey, Queenie. Okay.
Take a seat and get the cold out.
I'm getting out of here.
Another maggot.
Yep.
What the hell is happening with Upgard?
She just really doesn't like you.
Oh well.
Do you have the reputation mod installed?
Yeah.
Might be having to do. Have you done a lot of questionable shit?
I mean, I've been to the Thieves Guild.
Maybe you've just done something that pissed her off, and she heard about it. I don't know. That one was just weird like that.
Okay, let me also take care of my brain rot. Before anything, brain rot first.
Yeah, probably gonna do.
Anyway, if he would find Marrow, I'm not sure.
I don't think that they're gonna be the best of friends.
No.
Definitely Miss Morrow over here, because he'll recognize her as being the fucking second in command of the fucking Chimeran Legion.
Hello, friend.
And you know, aside from Maiden, he hasn't really talked to her at all. All he knows about her is that she's a fucking ruthless slaver. The one probably ultimately responsible for most of that's happening, next to the fucking warlord himself. So running into her, probably not gonna end up very well. That's a definite, they're not gonna be in the same room for long kind of situation.
Well, it's going to be the situation where like one of them enters the room, the other one, both enter the room, one of them dies, period.
That's probably gonna be Carter.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case.
Likely gonna be Carter.
Come on in.
The only thing that I'm not sure about,
And get the cold out.
Upgrade, by the way, I did earlier get in here to like grab the what is it called again? The tusk for
What was that?
I just don't get why.
Please, someone do something.
Alright.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Skyrim at its finest. Well, guess we're playing with one less NPC now. Let's just steal all of her shit and head off.
They are.
If it's a lady you're looking for, you best look elsewhere. Once Mikhail gets them, they're got.
Yeah. Anyway, the next person that Carter could run into is, well, the Alpha Mage, Miss Asha herself. Which, whilst having a amazingly nice and soft personality, herself being a evil, basically magic wielding wild elf, probably gonna give Carter the best first impression.
On my honor, Carlotta won't have to worry about me again.
So, if he were to run into Mrs. Flame wielding, magic using wild elf, how would he react?
Some parting advice?
Has she been bad to him?
Huh?
Has she been bad to him in any way?
Probably not.
Then he's probably going to be okay. Still not the best of friends because he probably hasn't known her at that point before.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you.
Like, so at that point, like, they're still okay in that sense.
But would you say that Carter really gives a fuck about, her being a mage or an elf? Or is he just gonna treat her like any old person?
Carter definitely doesn't really care about that. Like, it has tits.
Sure. Sure.
That's,
It's good on the eye, so it'll do.
that's like the simple variant. Now, on the other hand, like, he doesn't really care for elf and like for the magic. He doesn't like magic all that much though.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if he really has to live with it, like, he's like, alright, sure.
Yeah, there are definitely worse things out there.
Yep.
Looking at number 3.
Oh yeah,
There's
no.
worse things out there. Alright. Well, Dane we don't really have to worry about because they only get to meet once, and after that.
Xaviera, like, her also has tits, but like, he definitely hates her.
Yeah, I mean, there comes a point that even having great tits doesn't save you.
Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, number 5, Dane we don't have to worry about too much. They only meet once during the attack on the Elven settlement. And obviously Carter isn't involved in that battle, by the way. He probably does fight against the elves for a slight, for a brief amount of time. But just because his superiors told him so, not because he hates the elves.
Yeah. I mean,
and next to that, he basically, and after that, he immediately fights side by side with them as well. So yeah, that's a definite neutral thing. But he doesn't have to worry about Dane because Dane doesn't survive in that battle. We could even add a little bit flavor, saying that Carter is the one that ultimately killed Dane.
Ooh.
That could be cool. Basically, your other personality killed your other personality's older brother. Nice.
Nice. That works perfectly fine. That is.
That's completely logical.
That is our stories at its finest.
But then, because that's definitely going to be one of those things. What happens after the fight against the undead doesn't? Because during the fight, when the elves and the such are still fighting against the Camarans, obviously that's where there's an opportunity for Carter and Dane to basically come to blows. But after that, the dragon shows up. They're basically neutral. And I wouldn't say that Carter at least has any reason to attack Dane after that, unless he specifically ordered to, but Maiden orders him to fight the undead and nothing more than that. So we could have it that because Dane's still on this very I fucking hate the Chimerans mindset, that he probably either after the fight or during the fight, attacks Carter. So it's not even really Carter's fault, he just defends himself and just happens to kill him. That could be a pretty interesting twist.
Ooh. I stole the hip bone.
Oh, good.
I didn't even take the quest, I just stole it.
Yeah. Okay, but that's gonna make the next person on the list a little bit more interesting. Because the next time that they've got a chance to meet is after, this fight. And
so, if she
Diana will
knows...
probably recognize Carter as the guy that killed her brother.
Yeah, those two are not going to be on like good Like, they're not going to be walking on warm sands together. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to have any romantic thoughts for a while. I mean, Carter probably will because, hey, yeah, it's got tits. But
it's got something more than a face. You found a unique candlestick.
hold on.
You unnatural magics are coming
I like you just walk into the throne room, snatch that candlestick, and no one gives a fuck.
Then we will immediately send out a legion
Don't mind me,
to
guys.
scour
Just
the way and secure the town.
gonna inspect this
Catherine
candlestick
Rush's
over
people
here.
will always be safe under my
It's
Don't
going to...
worry, I'll bring it back eventually. It's
No.
not gonna go far. It's just gonna go in the fucking museum next door.
Yeah. I mean, if it even could...
Someday a fucking noble or fucking Queen Elizabeth is gonna stroll down the fucking museum. She's like, wait a fucking minute, is that my candlestick? That son of a bitch.
I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
going to bring it instantly here. Like, fuck it.
So anyway, if these two were to meet, I don't think Carter's not gonna recognize her as the sister of Dane. He probably doesn't even know that he had a sister, but she's gonna recognize him. So she'll probably call him out on it and get all angry at him, and yeah. But
If
yeah,
she starts a fight, then Carter doesn't care, and like he just murders her as well.
You must be the benefactor.
Hey!
Allow me to
well, that
introduce
does
myself.
heavily depend on the
Other
situation that they
sisters,
find
Ori and
themselves in.
Hyde,
Are they going to be on a more
guard
neutral
of the
ground, or are they
museum.
going to be on opposing sides? Because
With
if
the
they are on
collections
opposing
growing
sides,
so quickly,
a fight
we
could
needed
probably
another
happen.
set of eyes to
I
ensure
mean,
it's always
so-
protected. I
Yeah,
intend to
so like
also
he and
offer
she were like his enemies,
as you
like
can
were like
see,
part of the enemy forces anyway, right?
If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask.
Well, technically, yeah.
Then I
mean-
guess a fight will happen.
I mean, technically,
If she calls him out on
at the-
that, then he knows like she's the enemy as well.
well, I mean, they're not going to be per definition enemies later on in the story, but they were at the time during, at that fight. Carter does, it's not like Carter thinks that she and her brother were the ultimate evil, because he really doesn't care. He's just brainwashed into attacking anything that moves that the Chimerans don't really like. But he obviously, by the time that they would meet again, has abandoned the Chimerans, because he definitely didn't agree with them at all. So I don't think he'd see the elves or anyone related to them as ultimate evil. The exact opposite, probably. It's anyone that the Chimerans will be fighting are probably going to be good people, because the Chimerans are fucking awful.
Yeah.
But the next time they meet, obviously, it's gonna be pretty awkward. I don't think Carter is really gonna dislike her in any way, but the other way around, definitely. Or they might. That kind of depends on whether or not I'm going to have Dinah recognize him immediately. It might just be one of those things that she'll recognize him or learn that it was him later on, and not immediately. I don't know what I want to do with that yet. But if they, so if the situation is different and neither of the two recognize each other from what happened, do you think that'd be any problem between these two?
Nah, as long as they don't recognize each other, as long as there's like no actual problem, from what you can see, like then it should all be fine.
Alright. Alright, well that's good. At least gives me something.
Instantly made a copy of the hip bone.
Hip bone. But okay.
I mean, I still need the hip bone, so.
That leaves just our final adorable elf girl, which is probably gonna be a good one. Don't really think I've got much to worry there.
I mean, do they know each other like from any bad way?
I don't know. I mean, Carter, Carter's been in that attack where she was also, because she is an elf. That was her family. But by that time, the same would apply to Asha and Dinah. So if they recognize her, then they're probably gonna have a little bit of an issue. Then again, I don't think then the other characters would fail to notice, Sammy, Asha, and Dinah, that Carter isn't wearing the Chimeran uniform for a reason. He already left them. It's not like he's an evil guy, which they've all recognized. They're not gonna be happy with him, obviously, but they're not gonna see him as, I'd say, the ultimate evil that needs to be destroyed.
True, true.
That title still goes to number 3, which is in the most well-liked character in the list. Probably one of the most interesting ones, but definitely not the fan favorite among the other characters.
Definitely not
that.
indeed.
Maynard really likes it.
I mean, well, I mean,
he doesn't really like it because he likes certain parts of it. Two big, nice, soft parts, but for the rest of it,
yeah.
he's basically just going along with it. He doesn't really know what to feel or what to do, or he's basically fucking trapped, obviously. He's not really living his own life, not really thinking for himself, because he's just part of the Chimera and War Machine.
No, he went into the forbidden weed.
Traumatized people don't really tend to think very clearly, and Maynard's definitely an example of that.
Oh, and you'll need the hip.
But yeah, so okay, that's that.
No entering Pelagius's wing without that.
So for the most part, God is going to be a very,
Until next time.
straight up guy when it comes to meeting people. He's not going to have much prejudice unless it's someone that he knows is a piece of shit or has done something to him or will do something to him in that situation. But if it's not, then he's probably okay with it.
Yeah.
Not going to be the best of friends because of his trust issues, but he's not going to outright smack someone's face in for breeding. Unless it's number 3.
I mean, knowing Carter, he will smash everyone's face in if they're breathing like too loud.
Trouble?
Someone just blinks their eyes and he's like, God damn it, would you keep it quiet? I'm fucking blinking. Yeah, you're doing it a bit too much. Can you stop breathing? I'm trying to sleep.
You're being very fucking loud! Mind of Madness.
Someday a gallant hero
Of course, I got...
will ride up and take me away.
But okay, let's see. I'm still working on the entirety of not the entirety. I'm still working on adding bits and pieces to the second chapter. Obviously, the first chapter is already completely done, so I could send you it so you can read it when you've got the time.
Yeah, it could be handy. Look at this, by the way. I'm standing right in front of like this guy. 88% to steal his key.
Nice.
Like, what the fuck is that? It's not even the right key, for fuck's sake.
Don't even think about it.
I don't think that's a physical key that you can lockpick or pickpocket. I mean.
You direct those concerns to me. Absolutely not. That ring has been sealed.
I think if you do the Patema thing first, then he'll trust you enough to give you the key.
Yeah, true.
Because I've definitely talked to this guy, and he just basically told me to, hey, yeah, it's fine. We trust you. Just don't spend too long in there.
Feel free to return to me with questions. The Blue Palace is an open forum. Yes?
Okay, well, I hear you're looking for someone to help with Wolf Skull Cave.
You mean the Dragon Bridge issue? I'll be honest with you, I was planning to let that go. Varnius is a bit jumpy at the best of times. There have been reports of weird happenings near Wolf Skull Cave.
You have the chapter 1 open 2 times, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Suspect wild animals, or perhaps
I do that sometimes.
I don't think it's worth our time with
Don't know why, it's just a force of habit.
But if you want to clear out the
I tend to, when I want to open something, I just go back to the drive and find it and open it, forgetting that I've already had it open somewhere.
Please feel welcome.
I mean, working as I do at the moment is pretty much a big ass clusterfuck. Because I had the characters page, I had that open on my right screen, so I can kind of fill it in with details as I go along. Because every so often when I figure out something about the character, I'll add it to their page. Right now they're all empty, because I still need to make like a bit of a template. But I will eventually, fill their pages up with information about the character that I can use to, be consistent in their personality and what kind of person they are. Because if I keep freeballing it, then it's likely that they'll have small changes every now and then that'll ruin the consistency of the character.
True, true.
And also, it's always nice to have a a nice few pages describing every character, just so I've got something to fall back on. And for other people to read into the character, so they've got a deeper understanding of that character.